wrestling fan, you knew that theme music, and obviously the episode title for this interview gives it away, but I had the chance. Doug Dietzold, who was a diehard wrestling fan when I was growing up in the 90s and early 2000s, got to interview Sid Vicious, Sid, Sycho Sid, Sid Eudy. Man, he has some amazing wrestling stories, and we didn't get too in-depth on how he came up. He gave me a little bit here and there, because I didn't want to spoil, but he just started a podcast called the Vicious Circle Podcast, and he's basically going in order about his career, and man, that guy has some amazing stories that you're going to want to check out. Check out the episode notes. It's going to have the link to his podcast so you can check it out. So before he powerbombs me, let's start the interview.
Yeah, so this is awesome to be able to talk to you.
Yeah, this is good, man. I'm trying to get used to this podcast. Anybody I've talked to, the way you get used to it, just keep doing them, you know.
I've listened to the first 2 episodes of your podcast, so I don't think you have anything to work on. You always had, in your career, always had great mic skills, and those things aren't scripted, right?
Right.
You know what you're doing. And then before we even get started and talking about you, let's talk about your podcast called the Vicious Circle.
Right.
Why did you want to start it?
Well, honestly, it just, a buddy of mine named Barry Norman, we've been working on this book of mine, and we decided to do it ourselves instead of going through a publishing company. We've had just so much, we didn't hear the right things from the publishing companies we talked to, and a couple of the writers we talked to, it's better to do it on your own. Just, you got to sort of promote it yourself. So really that's what we got on there first, to promote the book. And then after getting into it, I heard a few people's podcasts, and I thought, God, it'd really probably be good for the people listening to these things that say, hey, I want to hear the truth about some of these things. Where some of these stories these people are saying is just crazy. Now, if I spent my whole life trying to correct everybody's wrong stories, I'd never get anywhere. But again, it's mostly just, and then after getting into it, now I can see how much fun it is. And then I do feel like the people who got back with us, or feedback from this one, is that they feel like that someone's being honest with them. So that's what we want to do, is where, when we do get to subjects and stuff like that, we're not have no editing in it. That way we can't go back and say that, we're sort of going in circles about what we're saying,
Yeah.
So it's just, it's been a lot of fun. So I'm not sure where to all go to.
Yeah, well, no, that's good that you're getting it out there, and I like the way you're doing it too. Well, piece by piece.
Right, do it a little piece at a time, and then, add some different, I'm going to add some different guests in there, like what we're calling, call-ins. And then, where we talk about music, me and Barry Norman talks about Woodstock and what music meant to us and stuff like that. So, trying to find a crossover audience as well.
So your love for music was one thing that jumped off the page of me. Listening, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And just the way your childhood growing up, and it was really heartfelt, and just to see where you went to with your career.
Right. Well, that's why we think, Doug, it's going to make for a really good book. We really do.
So what was one story that you heard from another one of the podcasts, or any stories that were out there that you're like, okay, I need to set the story straight?
Well, one was Bruce Pritchard's, where he's talking about the incident with being armed. And, I think he has I don't think it is. He's got the wrong city in the wrong country, so it's just, and then two, listening to these people and, their opinions on it, like when you hear Bill Dundee's story, he goes, well, I wasn't there that night. I didn't see it, but then he tells a story about it. So it's just automatically people are making up a story that wasn't even there. And of all the stories that were told, Two Cold Scorpios was about the best, and it was pretty accurate. He said what he didn't see, he said what he saw was pretty accurate. So again, it's just, you find out that most of the stories aren't close out there. And not just that story, because I don't like talking about that story too much, because I don't like dragging Arn's family through all that stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or my own family. And it's a stupid story. It was two stupid people doing stupid things. But again, that, and then, just everything about how my career was and where I was at different points in my career. People are so stupid,
Yeah.
I mean, they really are. It's just amazing how dumb people are.
Now, is there, from your days of wrestling, we're going to kind of go all over the place. But, so in your days of wrestling, are there any people you still talk to from your career?
I do. I talk to, Bruno Lauer, who's Harvey Whippleman, or Downtown Bruno.
Oh, awesome.
I talked to him quite a bit. Then I talked, the guy I traveled with that I really look back and really liked the most was Carl Willett, that was one half of the Quebecers and did that pirate character.
Oh, okay.
He was like, and then I still call and talk to him from time to time. He'll call me once in a while, but that's really about it. And then I take that back. I talked to Doug Gilbert, his brother's Eddie Gilbert, who had a lot to do with breaking me in. And, so I talked to Doug just the other day. We're going on an autograph signing in November, Philadelphia and New York together. So that would be fun seeing him.
Oh, no way. Really? Maybe I'll check that out. I'm in Jersey, so I'm not that far.
Yeah, we're going to do one in, I actually got 2 in November in New York.
Oh, that should be pretty cool. So growing up, I know you enjoy playing sports from your first episode, because I'm going to send so many people there to listen to it, so I don't have to hear the same thing twice. But there was a lot of sports around. There was a lot of ball fields. The guy said he was driving in. What were some sports that you enjoyed playing growing up?
Really, I liked all sports, man. And this is what I tell people too. You struggle. Nothing's fun until you're winning at it, and when you start winning, then it becomes fun. Now, I think one of the first sports I picked up on was baseball. It took me a couple of years, but I got where I was, a full-time starter and could hit the ball, et cetera, et cetera. And then football came after that, and then basketball was the last thing to come around for me. And, but when it came around, it was a lot of fun too. So there's probably nothing I didn't enjoy. Now, I also boxed, and I took karate most of my life. So to me, I liked all 5 or 6 sports that I participated in.
So when did you become 6'8", right? Are you 6'8" or 6'9"?
Yeah, I'm about 6'8".
So when did that happen? How old were you that you hit that?
Man, honestly, Doug, I can't remember when I, probably, I really don't remember, honestly.
No, you're saying you're like at 6'8", like if you still watch it, you still enjoy watching baseball, right?
Yeah, I'm watching it right now.
Oh, look at that. So I'm a big Yankee fan from where I grew up, and you rarely see players as big as Aaron Judge, and
right.
that's you. So I was just wondering, seeing a 6'8" kid in high school hitting would be like something phenomenal to see.
Right.
So the one story that I was listening to, I thought was pretty fascinating, was when it came to football. So you said you were playing football in high school, and then you were going to try out for the USFL.
No, what happened in the USFL, Doug, was Memphis Showboats was one of the teams in the USFL, and they had an open tryout. Now, I hadn't played football since high school, and so I went out there. This is when I just, probably about, second, third, maybe fourth year working out, really started putting on some size and stuff like that, some strength, and walked out. I think there was 2,000 or 3,000 people who tried out for that team, and I made it to the last cut. Just on a 40 speed, a broad jump, a vertical, and really that was it. And then the bench press, and I excelled at all those things. And I had a 4.840. I think I did 225 for 33 reps. I had the highest vertical of all offensive defensive linemen. Had the longest broad jump, and a buddy of mine who went on the tryout with me taught me everything I knew about working out. I actually beat him out, and he had played. He had played at Kentucky and boxed professionally, and so people realize just on those fundamental drills, if you're way ahead of everybody else, they'll keep you just for that fact alone.
Oh yeah, there's a few NFL players that get drafted just based on that. The Giants, they drafted a guy, Jason Pierre-Paul, and he only played 1 year of college, 2 years of college football. Like he never played, but he had all those things that they looked for that they felt like they could work with. Right.
As a matter of fact, I got picked up at the end of the USFL before the league went under, and I got pulled down to Houston, a team called Houston Gamblers. And I was just working out of the gym in Memphis, and the scout for them came through and asked me if I'd go out and run a 40. I ran a 40 in the rain out there on the track in tennis shoes, and then they brought me into their tryout, and then the coach brought me in and talked to me. He said, "Man," he goes, "if it wasn't, we know that this league is going under." They said if we didn't think it was going under, we would keep you, just to keep you on the practice team. And then you would probably become a starter. Because, again, I had everything it took. I was 325, again, the 4.840, highest vertical, longest broad jump. And then I had good explosion,
What position were you trying out for?
Well, I was hoping for a defense, but with the Memphis Showboats, they brought me in and pretty much just gave me all offensive lineman assignments.
Yeah, that stinks that league did fold, but because that would have been a cool opportunity. But I think things obviously worked out for you when you think about it. So was this right around the time that you ran into like Macho Man?
Right. This was the exact same time.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, it was just a coincidence, and what it was is this is weird timing. There was this promoter for a country music singer named Eddie Bond here in Memphis, and he saw me at a Fridays one night and asked me if I wanted to wrestle, and took me down to the Coliseum, introduced me to a guy named old man named Guy Coffey, and then Randy Savage and them saw me there that night. When they saw me in the gym the next day, they said, "Man, if you're thinking about wrestling, get away from that goofy guy. There really aren't promoters or managers for wrestlers. I mean, there really is not that kind of money there." And so they introduced me to Tojo Yamamoto, and that's how I got into wrestling.
Yeah, that was a really cool story when you talked about like your wife. How I don't know if you were already married and just you traveling to do the training.
Right. Well, that was again, I tell people that is it for me to be successful or not successful as I think I was or was not. To have that opportunity, I had a great support system where all I had to worry about, it wasn't worry about just doing the little things, but I didn't have to worry about anything but doing the things I had to do to be the best in the wrestling business. And my wife and family made that possible for me.
Yeah, it's important to have a support system, especially when you're doing something that's so new to you. And I know you watch wrestling a few times on TV. Now, do you remember your first match?
I remember, let's see. I remember my first matches, like, for instance, like in Malden, Missouri, where we'd go down there and just do stupid stuff. My first real match that I considered was, I got pulled in as a Lord Humongous character with Jerry Lawler, and from my understanding, somebody just didn't show up, and so they put me into the spot. And I got to be main event with Jerry Lawler and Austin Idol and Nick Bockwinkel.
Oh my God!
So that was a pretty good, cool way to start off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So with that character, you were in a mask, right?
Yeah.
How was that? Like doing all your training. Obviously, you're not wearing a mask when you're doing all your training, getting ready to step into the ring. Did that like make it even harder to do it for the first time?
You know, the thing is I was so nervous and so scared. I think it wouldn't have mattered if I had 5 masks on. You know? I'm like, kid, I remember going out to the ring that night and Austin Idol saying, "Hey, flex." And I couldn't get my muscles to flex. I'm not kidding, man. It was that nerve-wracking.
I bet. Do you remember how many people like were in the crowd? I'm sure it was a bunch. Especially Jerry Lawler's.
Yeah, it was so. Now, I'll tell you my first match. This is a better way another best match. My first match was actually I stood in one night for someone. They called me in my house. I was going through the wrestling school, and they had not smartened me up yet. They hadn't told me that business was a work and things like that. So they called and said, Tojo called and said, "You want to come to the Coliseum tonight?" And I was eating supper. I went, "Yeah." So I got over there, and they pulled me. I was standing out by the back door. They said, "Okay, we're going to have you sit in the corner with the fabulous ones tonight. And Jonathan Boyd's going to be sitting in the corner with the sheep herders. And your job tonight is, if he gets out of his chair, is you put him back in it." Now, I don't know if you remember, Jonathan Boyd and the sheep herders were scary looking people.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Come on, now tell me the rest of the stuff. This is fake and don't worry about it." Well, they never said anything to me. And I stood out there for seemed like 10 hours. And they'd come back out and they go, "You know your part?" I'd go, "Yeah." "Okay. You sit in the corner, and if he gets out of his chair, you go over and put him back in his chair." And I went, "Yeah," and that would be it. So I was like, "Oh shit," and then the guys kept coming out looking at me, like probably laughing, thinking he don't know what he's doing and stuff like that, And so we got out there and did the match, and they had never said a word to me. And when he went to stand up, I stood up, and then he'd sit back down. And I thought, wow, he's scared of me,
Oh man!
So that was really my first introduction to wrestling.
Yeah. So when did you? How far in did you know like that there was a work and there was like so many other things involved in it?
Well, this is the thing is they really never did smart me up after I got out of wrestling school. And then, when I got that chance to be Lord Humongous, they just put me in there and told me what to do.
That's amazing.
It really was. Well, people don't realize that you don't get smartened up even for your first match. That's how much of a secret they used to keep the wrestling business.
Which I think is better, and that's one thing I want to ask you. I was going to ask you later, but I think this is perfect. So back then, when you were wrestling, you obviously the good guys, the bad guys, you had all these different characters in these feuds, and it was like you believed in it. But nowadays, with like social media and like K-Fab's broken, do you think that hurts the business, and maybe that's why it's not as popular as it was?
No, I think it does. No, I think when you say, for instance, when I would walk to my car at nighttime, somebody would say, Sid, the wrestling business is fake, and I'd go, yeah, you're right. And then right after that, they'd go, no, I remember one time in New Jersey, it was real. I said, no, it was fake. And then they'll argue with you because they want to believe it's real.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I don't think you go out of your way to make them, tell them it's fake. And, like, for instance, when you hear, like, the business in a bad spot, it'll come out of the WWE that there are no such thing as baby faces and heels or blah, blah, blah. And the reason I'm saying that because no one's getting over it is either one.
Yeah.
So they say that, but there always has to be a good guy and a bad guy. There's got to be, those simple, basic theories to the business. It still has to be there. And I'll give you an example where everything looks really good. All their matches are perfect. They got them all scripted out. It's been a couple of years ago. I was watching one night where, used to if somebody missed a spot in the match, people would go, you fucked up, you fucked up.
Oh, well, yeah.
I'd rather see that once in a while and not see it at all. Well, I saw them create a spot in the match where it looked like they messed up, but they didn't. And it looked so bad that people didn't pick up on it. So they knew that it was a spot that was put in there to make it look like that, but they didn't buy it. And I don't remember many people picking up on that, but again, it's just, they want for it to be good again. Now, this introduction of the new wrestling company, it might stir things up a little bit to where it brings interest to the business again, and they'll show, from my understanding, they're going to go like it was before, to let the guys do what they want to,
Yeah.
We'll see. It might just be where maybe that demographic of wrestling fan that's looking for that kind of wrestling, they might just say, no matter how bad it might look, that's what they're wanting, and maybe Vince and them will be forced to go back to letting these guys have a little more say-so. My understanding is, as silly as it sounds to me, that was the whole thing about Cody Rhodes, is that he didn't want to do the Stardust character and didn't want to do more things, is that, first of all, I saw him in Stardust. He was really good at that. But I also saw him as himself, and he looked really good at that too. And I think if someone wanted that bad to do something, I think we should give him a chance to do it. And this is the reason why. For the most part, Cody wasn't put in a position where I saw in the business, where I saw him on TV when he was there, to say he'd be John Cena, right? He wasn't going to be your main guy. So it's not going to hurt let him try something else, you know what I mean? And especially if he had a chance. It looks like it was working by the fans' responses to him showing up to these shows and getting behind him saying, yeah, we did support you on that. So again, it wouldn't have hurt Vince to let him done that, and then who knows, it might have grew into something else. But what happens is, Doug, when the business is bad like it is, Vince doesn't want to give in to things like that. And there's a long history of things that's happened before that proves that Vince does react like that. So again, I think they do need it. I do think they need to have a little more breathing room. And I said this before, and answer this question is like this. Doug, if you are wrestling and I'm wrestling, you just started, they tell you and me to line up and for us to take off running. But they want us to stop in the same spot. In the wrestling business, if you and I are lined up, I'm going to run way past you. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you're asking me to stop when Doug stops. So that doesn't do me any good. Does that make sense?
Oh no, it does totally.
So that's what I'm saying. That's what they're doing. They're lining everyone up and go, we want you to stop right there, all of you. Well, that doesn't work, you know. That doesn't make it, that's not good for the business.
Yeah. No, have you watched any of the AEW yet?
No, well, there's nothing on TV yet, and I'm not going to order the pay-per-view. I did see something, it must have been commercial, or it wasn't, but part of it, wherever it was. But it had Chris Jericho on there, and it's the first thing I saw on it, and it didn't look good.
Yeah, the camera work in that part of it doesn't look as good. But they had one free pay-per-view that I watched, and it was on like Bleacher Report. TNT owns that, and the quality of the matches, the people that they have there are really good wrestlers. They just haven't had the chance to do like a week in, week out like storylines or anything. But no, I think competition's good. You know, when you were in the business, you had WCW and WWF, and it seemed like there was a reason to go out there and give it your all. I'm not saying you wouldn't do that. But as a company, it's good to have competition.
Well, I think, Doug, it's better for the boys to have competition than for the company.
That's what I mean.
If the competition out there, that means other things opening up. And this will spark too, Doug. It'll spark the smaller territories or the smaller independent territories where you'll see an influx, and this is the right time of year to start it too, and this is the winter. So it should have a real good carry on, you know. Now, again, what you were saying when you saw that, you said the production of it. See, that's what I'm afraid of, Doug, is that when they start putting their stuff on TV, it's going to expose them for what they are or what they are not.
No, you're right.
You know what I mean? And
when I hear people change the channel.
You said something earlier about them, and I've heard other people, and the way people phrase it almost sounds like they're same words and same verbiage that people use to describe TNA when they took off.
Yeah.
You know, and when you hear the same thing, that is also a bad sign to me. You know?
No, that's true.
Now, I think this company has got a million things more going for it than TNA or ECW and stuff like this. So I think this company's got the best chance of doing something.
Yeah. So that's good. So let's talk about your first time. Like, when you got approached to be in WCW, what was that like?
Man, that was like a dream come true, dude. It was just Eddie Gilbert had called. Me and my wife, we didn't have a phone at the time, and somehow he got the phone number at my father-in-law's car lot. And I came up that day, and he said, man, Eddie Gilbert's calling. And I called him. He said, what about a trial for WCW? I said, God, yeah, man. So that was, it was dream come true.
How long were you wrestling before that?
About a year and a half.
So then you do that, and right away you were put into a tag team?
Right. It was put together with a guy named Danny Spivey. We were called the Skyscrapers.
That's awesome. Yeah, and WCW had such great tag teams that time, too. The Steiner Brothers, the Road Warriors.
Well, shoot, they had, a lot of, Terry Gordy and Steve Williams. There's Stan Hansen and Vader who tagged some, me and Vader who tagged some, me and Stan Hansen who tagged some. So they had, Sting and Lex tagged some. So they had some really good tag matches, tag teams.
Yeah, they had a lot of, that era of wrestling, there was a lot of good wrestlers.
No, it was.
Down, like, every match was great.
No, it was. That was a good time to be in the business. I don't think it's ever been that good since.
Yeah, no, I agree. Even as a fan, like, it's not the same. Like, I used to love watching Monday Night Raw and then flipping back and forth in between commercials to Nitro.
Right.
It was like such a fun time to be like a fan of it. So is that the first time that you met? I don't know if you met him, because obviously when you got hurt, and then Mark Calloway, Undertaker, he took over in the Skyscrapers.
Right.
Is it the first time that you met him?
No, I had met Mark. I was in Memphis. He was in Memphis. I was doing the Lord Humongous character. I just came back from Japan. And then that's when I got my break with WCW, and then I didn't see him till he got to WCW, and that's after I came back from my surgery. And we actually rode together some. And this is for some reason Danny was gone at that point. I don't know why.
So then you come back, and then you had a stint in the Four Horsemen.
Right.
Was that the first time that your character was kind of like? It seemed like that's when that's like not when you came into your own, but you had kind of like a more of a, cause you hail from wherever you damn well please.
Well, this is the thing. At that point, I'd come back from my surgery. I was recovering from it and started to get back on my feet good. And then really what's happening, Ole Anderson was the booker. He involved me in a lot of things. And, the Four Horsemen thing was one of two things. One, sort of get me over by association, then also get the Four Horsemen back over a little bit because they had become stale with a new face like me. Someone who was up and coming and gave them sort of a shot in the arm as well. So, and then two, that was when I was coming into my own. Not that I wasn't before that, but I'd gone through that horrible lung surgery. And again, just really coming back from it. And then everything started falling in place.
What would you say, not an exact time, but was it like when you were at WCW or when you left for WWF? Like, when did you fall in love with the business? Like, what you were doing day in, day out?
Probably fell in love with it when I was having the most fun. That's when I worked for Continental. And that was that was for Lord Humongous, working as Lord Humongous.
Oh,
the thing about it then, that's, to me too, Doug, I've told people this, that I had never watched wrestling, didn't know anything about wrestling, just got into it for the money. And, so it was, to me, it was a business, and that meant getting up early, working out, doing all the right things to, propel myself forward in the business. Cause it was a tough business to make it in, So again, I looked at it like that, and I think that's what kept me going as strong as I did, because I wasn't looking at it as a fan situation.
No, that's true. So you have a different perspective on it. One thing I wrote down that goes back to kind of like with the K-Fab we were talking about before. So say if this was like today, and I watched one of your matches when you like beat the crap out of Mark Mara when he was like a jobber, and it was like a quick like one of those 4-minute, 5-minute matches, and you just squashed them. Like if I went on social media after watching that match, and you took a photo of him. Like, if you and him took a photo together, it would just kind of like ruin it, and that's what happens nowadays. That's one thing I wanted to mention to you before. So, what made you leave for WWF? Did they scout you out, and Vince loves big wrestlers, and you were the biggest and the baddest at that time?
What it was is, I had a chance, they were redoing my contract, and gave me a chance to call and talk to Vince. And I called him one day, and he got on the phone and flew me in the same day, and asked me what I wanted out of the business, and I told him. He offered it to me, and then I took a chance and went there.
What was it like the inner workings of WCW versus like WWF? Was it a total difference the way like the operations went?
Oh yeah, it was totally night and day. Where WWF it was a wrestling company, and WCW was a television company. So the pressure was there. Everything was magnified. It was just, it was a machine. You had to run next to that machine, or you would get run over by the machine.
Yeah. So what was your first big match that you remember in WWF? Obviously you went against Hogan. There was the Royal Rumble. But what was your biggest match like when you first started? Because it feels like you were thrown right into it.
Well, I was, and that's the thing about it was that I didn't have a chance to remember anything. I was thrown into it. I started off taking the Warriors place, and that was, again, to me, even though it was a more successful wrestling company, it wasn't professionally run like WCW, where you knew you worked for a big company, a big corporate company. Working with WWF, it was like working, for a carnival.
Oh, really?
Where, say for instance, where they lived on how they drew money, how you made money as people came to the house shows. You didn't make any money for TVs. And, so it was a driven, you had to work hard, not that you didn't have to work hard at WCW, but, you only got paid if they drew money, so, it was just, again, so many more pressures. You had to work on all your days off to promote the shows, because if you didn't promote the shows, there's a chance they wouldn't be sold out. They weren't sold out. You didn't make top money,
and it was a lot of traveling.
Yeah, and so, again, it was just, that's something I enjoyed about it, too, because I like working hard, and you learn what the business is really like. The cool thing about it, to me, was I really got to separate myself from everybody in the business when I was there, because if you don't draw money, you're not on top there, you know. And so I knew I was on top. I drew money. I knew I was safe on top. And so again, it was like working on the downside was like it was working for a small carnival.
Yeah. Now there's always that story, like, Testing the Body talks about it, like when Roddy Piper passed away. And he talked about, like, in the 80s, they worked like 68 days in a row or some ridiculous number. And I'm sure you have stories like that working. You're pretty much always on the move when you're not wrestling.
Well, that's just a normal schedule, 2 months straight, something like that. But when people had days off, I didn't, and I wasn't the only one like that. There was a crew of people just on their days off working every day too, promoting the shows that were coming up. So that's the deal. On top there, you earn your money. I mean, you're working on your days off. You're paying for your own expenses. Again, it was a tough way to make money, make $1, but it was satisfying also.
That's true. Now, did you always get pops from the crowd like throughout your whole career? Because I watched a few matches and it was like the crowd loved you. It was you versus Austin, and the crowd was. Both of you came out to cheers, and that's pretty rare. Usually, it's like a big chunk versus another chunk, like a small pop versus a big. But it seemed like both of you were loved by the crowd.
Yeah, I think I had that my whole career, where I think it only happened for Austin right after that pay-per-view with Jake Roberts. But, no, that started my first television tapings at WCW at Center Stage. I acted as a heel, worked as a heel, but I always got cheered.
That was so cool. Like, obviously you're working, and just to hear that from the crowd, it must be like exhilarating.
No, it is. And that to me was the big payoff for me is, I wasn't a fan of wrestling, but I was a fan of the wrestling fan. And so when I saw that they enjoyed something and the company itself, who you're working for, couldn't program them, they liked or disliked you no matter what the company tried to do, it made you feel like you were doing something good. And I knew I was working for in a different direction than other people worked for. And I looked at every facet I could find, and I said, I'm going to use this and this and this and this to get myself over. And then if I do all these things and a few of them work, it'll be hard to stop me.
No, that's true. So is there, looking back on your career, I know you've been in so many matches, is there one that like stands out to you as like your favorite match?
Well, there's a bunch of them. I usually answer that with the one at Halloween Havoc, me and Sting, where I didn't know the finish, and I was world champion for like 3 minutes. Because the reason that meant the most to me is because I didn't know the finish, and when I like being fooled, and I think as people, we like to be scared sometimes. As we become adults, it's hard to get scared because we know there's not such thing as monsters and stuff. So to be fooled or be a part of something no one knew about, that was fun to me. And then I guess, winning the world title from Sean at Madison Square Garden would be right up there with the same feeling.
Yeah. A buddy of mine, that loves you, and I told him I was going to talk to you. He was 12 years old at that pay-per-view, and I rewatched that earlier today, and man, you looked so happy, the way you were like high-fiving the crowd. You even hugged a guy that was like hanging over. Especially the win there, like Madison Square Garden has such great history. That must have been and the crowd went, just think about it. This is how much people loved you in your career. And this is why I enjoyed you so much growing up. You hit, Jose, what was that?
Lothario?
Yeah. You hit him, and you hit Sean, and you win the match. You're like using the camera. And the crowd pops as soon as you win. The crowd went absolutely ballistic.
Right. Well, too, that meant a lot to me too, Doug, because everything I had been through at that point in my life in the wrestling business, I'd worked myself, which I've talked about, I won't go into. I'd been on the whipping post there because I'd left and had to come back on my knees a little bit and was, on that whipping post. And to work myself off of there by myself, and how I did it is going to be in the book as well. But to me, that's why I think I know for as my run in the business was totally different than everyone else's. One, because I was on top pretty much my whole career, and the other is how I did it. and I really did it my way. I didn't kiss anybody's ass. I did things, I didn't push anybody around, but I didn't kiss anyone's ass, and I did it all through hard work.
That's it. I can't wait for the book. Any idea, like, when is there a target date that you have that you want to get that out there?
Well, no, the guy helped me write his name, Barry Norman, and the guy helps me produce Vicious Circle, Rob Bellamy.
Oh.
They're going to be here the first weekend in November, and we're going to all go
cool.
through some things and ride around and see. The main thing about my book, too, is that because I wasn't a wrestling fan, I want to say how I got to wrestling and how I got to me from a child. And some of the things I did to, even as a kid, I did things different because I outworked everyone. I had a different way of looking at things. And I think those kind of stories are going to explain who I am and the type of family I came from, which I'm really proud of my family. And I think that's going to be a big part of the book as well. Yeah,
and I'll make sure a million times check out Vicious Circle podcast. I'll have the link to it in the notes of the episode. But here's one thing that's pretty fun. So you won Survivor Series 96, and then you guys would always come back to MSG a lot. Now it seems like it's not as much. Like whenever I see like ads come up, like go see WWF at the Garden or WWE, they call now. And I saw you. It was a Saturday matinee at the Garden. It was January of '97, and it was like I guess the lead up to WrestleMania 13. I think that makes sense, right? Yeah, '97. And it was you and Taker, and it was the last match of the night. You guys were the main event, and Vader came out to attack Undertaker. And then I remember just the end of the show, me and my buddy Tom just going nuts because it was you and Taker like going back and forth just beating up Vader.
Right. I don't remember that so much. I do remember, we do an afternoon show once in a while at the Gardens, but I don't remember that particular match. I do remember working with Taker at a couple of those afternoon shows, though.
Yeah, what's funny? Back in the day, is that, the only time like there were so many wrestling magazines. The internet wasn't big then, so it was very rare for titles to change when it wasn't on TV. And at that house show, Savio Vega like turned on Ahmed Johnson and joined the Nation of Domination. But I always remember that when it happened, me and my buddy were like, "Oh my God, this stuff like this never happens." But it was really cool because I talked to my buddy on the phone. I was like, "We saw Sid live. I know we did." So I looked it up, and that was that. But so just a few more questions, and thanks so much for taking the time.
Yeah.
Who was somebody looking back on your career when you found out, like, hey, you're wrestling Undertaker, you're wrestling Shawn, that you knew that you guys could steal the show? Was there one wrestler that stands out to you?
Well, there's a bunch of them, but the one, and I have to say this, I won't go into it, but the one that really helped me get off the whipping post too was when I worked with either Bigelow or Vader. And Shawn too, but it was always nice to know I was working with Shawn, but especially Bigelow was this. One thing about Bigelow was different than all of them. I could take myself out of the position of worried about calling the match. Bigelow was maybe one of the best people at that. So why Bigelow would be my number one person on that list would be because of that reason that it really was a night off. All I had to do is participate and listen.
Yeah, he's from he was born in New Jersey. And he won. He was a wrestler. He won the state championship in New Jersey.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something, man. He was one of those guys that were one of those people where he could work. It don't matter from say Georgia to New York, California to overseas. When you go into that many different areas, you're dealing with different people geographically in different spots, and they react differently. He knew what to do every night. And I remember there was only one time that I can remember that, and what it was like a 6-man or 8-man tag. It was a television match. I can't remember who was all in it. But it was the only time that I saw him come up short in the match where he didn't get the people, and it wasn't his fault. It was a television taping. Wasn't many people there, and that they had been, wrung out from all the matches. And it was just the 6-man or 8-man is always a hard match to, keep a tempo going. But I remember him taking the blame for it, saying, man, because Bill Watts was in the dressing room, was in WWF, and he said, man, I'll take the blame for this. I should have done this. And, but again, it'd probably be Bigelow, who I enjoyed. I knew that we were going to have the best match of the night, and I knew I didn't have to think much about it.
Yeah, him, and it's crazy you said those two guys, because those guys are, like, bigger guys, like, size-wise. Like, you were tall, but in phenomenal shape. Those guys were in good shape, too. You have to be a wrestler. But, man, Vader was another guy that he moved around so well. And like you said, Bam Bam, how great was it? Like, just that he went against, like, NFL players, like LT.
Well,
WrestleMania 10, that was crazy.
Well, he's the only one could have done that, Doug.
Oh,
and that'd be
know.
Main event at WrestleMania with a football player in just a real one-on-one match. And the thing about that, to me, was so cool for him was the business was down like then, worse than it's ever, maybe not as bad as it is now, but it was really down. And for him to come through that, he really was carrying the flag for the WWF.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if a lot of
right.
people even realize that or not.
No, you got to think at that time, I think you were talking about it. There was something I watched you you were doing an interview, you were talking about Bret Hart. And it's true, like when he was on top of the business, it wasn't doing as well. That was when they had the whole gimmick with, who could pick up Yokozuna. And it was like him and Lex Luger, or Lex Luger was the one that could pick up Yokozuna. I forgot how, it was a really weird storyline that they had back then, but,
I think I came in and Sycho said just right after that, if I'm not mistaken.
It was
that deal. But
yeah.
The business was bad then, Doug, but it stayed bad for a couple of years after that.
Was it a lot different when you came back when you came back the second time? I know.
Yeah, I'll tell you what it was. I was really shocked. I remember watching their TV a little bit and seeing Steve Dahl, the team called Well Done. I said, man, this is something. I said, I know these guys, and not that I'm being mean to them, but I know these guys aren't guys in the business are going to sell tickets. And when I got to my first television taping at Macon, Georgia, I was shocked to see like just a few hundred people there.
Oh man!
You know?
Did you ever get to wrestle? I'm sure there was wrestling events, right? Like I don't know if they ever had any big pay-per-views, but were you able to wrestle like close to home, like with WWF?
Sometimes, not too often.
Yeah, that must have been pretty cool. I'm sure some local people that you grew up with came out and saw you.
Yeah. I tell you, it was strange when I was in WWF first time at Sid Justice and at WrestleMania. The owner of the Continental Territory named David Woods, when I was over Humongous, I was at the hotel in Indianapolis and I looked in the lobby there and David Woods was standing there. I said, what are you doing here? He goes, I come to watch your match.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. Boss showed up to watch my main event.
Yeah. There's just so many different things I want to ask you, but I don't want to spoil it for all the stuff you're going to have on your podcast. But how about this? So like when you first come into WWF, we'll go back a little bit, and you're going against Hulk Hogan. So what was that like? Because he was obviously at the top. I know he was getting ready to leave at that time or retire. But what was that like going against a guy that was kind of like, he was carrying the flag for so long, and then obviously it was going down at that point. But.
Well, I was brought in for that very reason, Doug, to take over his spot, you know. So that's why I said, you know, if I told Vince he asked me what I wanted, I said, I want Hogan's spot, you know, so I never felt bad about asking for that.
Yeah.
The thing is, and he knows this, and everyone knows this, you get in that position in business, and, you know, eventually, you know, the spot just runs out.
Oh, yeah. Even the best can't have the run forever.
No. And he had run his run. I think back in those days, the runs were a little shorter, you know. I don't know how long it was, but, and that's the reason that, you know, like, when he was getting booed and stuff, it wasn't I was any better than him. It was just that he had run his course, you know, like, when we did that Royal Rumble, the people booed him. And every time we were in the same building, they booed him, you know, so. It really amounted to that, you know, like today, you know, just no one can stay on top forever.
Yeah. And I think people are over, you know, the gimmick of real American, eat your vitamins, and they wanted something new. And that was like the tide definitely changed.
Well,
around that.
I don't, this is what I was hearing, Doug, is that You can't go out and say, eat your vitamins and say your prayers when, the whole company's under investigation for steroids.
Oh, that's true, yeah. Yeah.
So that makes a little sense too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Meaning this is you don't force someone down someone's throat and say, you're going to believe this and only this and this is why. Because then finally people go, no, this is why I'm not going to believe it.
Yeah. Did you ever have a chance to work with or against Macho Man?
Well,
Macho Man?
When I came back into WCW, my last run there before I broke my leg was I got to be a part of Team Madness for just a little bit.
Oh, that's awesome.
This is a cool thing. I mean, for me, that's just sort of stupid. So everybody's going to go, that's sort of stupid. But this is one of the cool things about working with like Randy Savage. One, me and Savage has broken the business sort of. He's broken earlier than me, but we still had the same philosophy, the old style, the old ways of the business, and things worked. And when you got the green light, you took it. You didn't let no one take advantage of you.
Yeah.
We're working a match with Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn, I think it was. This is when I was running up my total for wins. And Dean comes to me and says, he goes, man, you mind if I give you a drop toe hold? He goes, I do a really good drop toe hold. I said, no, Dean, we can't do that tonight. What we're going to do is this. When I come in the ring, I'm going to grab you, power bomb you, and pin you. And whoever the referee, he's just going to start handing up, numbers. Then I'm going to pin you again. I'm going to pin Perry, and I'm going to pin Perry again. I'm going to pin you again. And just ran up a bunch of numbers, we walked away from that. Randy Savage goes, man, he goes, I like that. You don't let someone tell you that you're going to do a drop toe hold to you when you're getting ready to, be the biggest monster in the world.
Yeah. And it's like full circle, like you mentioned, like you started with Macho Man and then it was, that was the time, 13 years later almost?
Right. So to me, it's a really cool thing to come full circle with him and then him tell me that, like, you know what? I sort of grew up and figured this business out.
Yeah. I interviewed Tiny Lister, who was in WWF for like a short run, and he's an actor mostly now, but he told me a good story because, I don't know, you ever seen the movie Friday?
I don't know.
It was like with Ice Cube. And anyway,
no.
I asked him how he gets into his character, and he said he learned from Macho Man. The way Macho Man would just like turn it up a notch.
Right.
Like out of nowhere, like you kind of did something like that with your promos. Like when you used to cut your promos, you talk very like softly but in an aggressive way, and then you just like kick it up.
Well, that's what you do. Is what you're trying to do with your interview, Doug, is tell a story with it. It'd be 30 seconds, 15 seconds, or a minute and a half. So you can, I think at the beginning I did all mine loud and screaming. Then someone brought that to my attention, and I started changing things up.
No, they were great, and I think that's different today because nowadays it's so scripted. You can almost tell that people are reading off a script. All right, so this has been awesome. My last question for you, for Sycho Sid Vicious. How did you come to choose the Parabot?
Well, I was getting ready to go to Continental as Lord Humongous. I was working out at this little place downtown Memphis with a guy named Motley. His name was David. And he'd been to Japan, and he said, man, you ought to use this thing called the Powerbomb. He showed it to me. Well, I went down to Continental. I was going to use it. They said, no, we want you to use the Cobra Clutch. Eddie Gilbert came in as the new booker, and he didn't know what finish I was using. So what I did, I used the Power Bomb on my own without telling anyone. And the guy on the front row said, man, that guy's dead. And I knew right then I needed to use that finish.
Yeah. And thank God that you did that. You took the lead and did that, because that is like, they were definitely the ones that you did. Even when you came back in 2012 for, I don't know, maybe it was like Raw 20th anniversary.
Right.
And you powerbombed, trying to think of what guy you powerbombed. Even then, I'm like, geez, man, this guy's still putting it into it.
Right. Well, Doug, I appreciate it, man.
I appreciate it, and I'm going to make sure everybody goes to check it out. I have so many buddies that we love watching you growing up, so they're going to go listen to your story. And again, thank you. And I love the way you're doing that podcast because it makes you want to just tune in next week. Because there's so much to you that you don't know. You only know the guy you see on TV for, 15, 20 minutes each episode. With this, like, knowing the way you grew up and the hardships that you went through and, like, where you went and, you were on the top of the world. Watching your reaction at Survivor Series is one of the coolest things. I
think so too, Doug. I appreciate it. As we get closer to this book and do different things, we'll come back on yours sometime.
Man, how awesome was he? Such amazing stories that he, told me. For 60 minutes, I felt like I was his buddy, and it's really cool. I think he really came across that way in the industry, and that's why fans loved him. As a bad guy, people just went nuts when he won. And I referenced to him, and I'll reference to you guys again, that moment when he won at Madison Square Garden against Shawn Michaels at Survivor Series. Man, that crowd they were just going nuts for him. The end, if you want to watch it again, you can find it online. People are just hugging him. And he is just, you could tell it was a big moment for him. So yeah, check out his podcast, The Vicious Circle. You can find it everywhere, but I'll have the link to the website where the podcast plays. Don't forget to review, rate, and share our podcast. And then this Thursday, we're interviewing Bad Boy Mike Barnes, Sean Kanan, who was the nemesis of Ralph Macchio in Karate Kid 3. Good night.